Hey students, today we're going to talk about buttons and forms in InDesign. And so I had you download this last name underscore exercise underscore buttons and forms InDesign document. And the first thing we're going to want to do is obviously switch over to your interactive workspace. And then you want to go ahead and open up the buttons and forms panel. So window, interactive, buttons and forms. Okay, I'm going to pull that right out here, and that's pretty much the only panel we're going to use for this exercise. This is just a great way to add interactivity to your files in a much different way than we did using the hyperlinks and some of the other panels we worked with in the Advanced InDesign course. So here we have buttons and forms in InDesign. We have several just different graphic elements showing, and the first one we're going to add in is a text field, and you need to grab your text tool for that. And anytime you're doing this in InDesign, it's really wise to add in text immediately over any graphic, not within a graphic. I know it's very tempting to keep it as the graphic, but you really want to do a separate box. So I did that, and go ahead and select that. And you want to make it a button. Okay, and that adds button 1. And we are going to switch it from a button to a text field. And we really need no actions for this at all. You can just add it to on click. One of the things you want to do, you don't need it to be scrollable, of course. I do like to name things properly, so go ahead and just add a name. And then you want it to be printable. And obviously, if this is a form that's really important, you probably want it to be required. And then I always, keep it at about 10 point or 12 point. It's up to you. It default says 12. So that's it for that particular one. Okay, and then you would deselect that. You will now next add another text field to the email portion. Okay, again, make sure that this is also a button. So make sure it's selected and then convert it to a button. And then you want this to end up being a text field as well. Change that to email. Put that on click. There are no actions that are needed for this particular one either. It does not have to be scrollable. And we'll put it required as well. Okay, so now we have 2 text fields that we added to this form. The next one we want to add is we want to add some buttons in here. And one way to do that is if we look at some of our panel options, it gives us a lot of different options under Window, Sample Buttons and Forms. This is one of those things that you might want to group right along with your other panel. So we're probably going to end up adding in, clickable round circles. You just drag and drop them right out. There they are somewhere. Okay, and I'll just get rid of Dreamweaver since we only have 3. I'm going to zoom in. And then obviously you can scale them down and make them a little bit more functional within your document. Okay, place them in properly. Okay, so some of the things when you select on one, you obviously can turn them off so that they're still interactive for when you do export this and people are using them. You can have them, they can actually click and it would be then activated. Okay, and then obviously you can do this radio button as a, InDesign. On click. This one would be Illustrator. On click. This one would be Photoshop. On click. Okay. Okay. All right, so we have the 3 different radio buttons applied here. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to do the same thing for the level. You can even copy one down here as well. We have to change them up. Since I did a copy paste, this would be entry level. And obviously this will gather data for you based on what you're inputting here. When you export, when people do submit, it will gather data. Junior designer. Art director, depending on what level you are. Creative director. Okay, and obviously you'll want this to be, these might be required. That's up to you. So if you wanted to have all of these be radio, that is completely up to you, but there's another way that we can do this. We can also delete these and bring in just the check marks. If I were to bring in these, drag and drop, I've got check marks as well. I can shrink those to work with what we're showing here in the document with regard to size. And obviously you can turn these off as well. And then again, name these based on whatever category they are so you can gather the correct data. Okay, so each one of these aren't clicked as of right now, but they are clickable. They are just turned off. Again, selected by default. They're printable. You don't really need to have them required. You can have them required though if that's what your form warrants. So the next portion, what you are hoping to do is to add another text box in the experience area. We want to do that. Talk about your experience in the field. And I added a text box, and of course you want to make a button out of that and then name it experience. On release or tap is fine, or on click. You want this to be printable. And you also want it to be scrollable. So you might have to go into some of your sample buttons and forms to kind of help that happen. I dragged and dropped some of these. You just have to delete the ones that you don't want, like date and month. That could be something like a credit card. And I just brought this in now. This gives us a few extra options. I think I like that better. Okay. So when you are working with these little boxes, let me do this again here. You can see that here under the list items, you can see all these little things here. We're gonna create our own. So let's go ahead and just delete all of these here. And we can create list items like 1 year, for example, if you only have 1 year experience, and then add that. Create another one, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5+ years. Okay, so now there's list items here. So experience would then allow you to scroll and choose whatever you'd like for that. Okay, so the next one is about you. Okay, so lastly, we're going to create a text field for about me. Excuse me, and we're going to create a button from, and then after we create the button, we want to make sure that it is text field, and you want it to be multi-line, scrollable, printable. You don't have to have it required. It's really up to you for that. But then people will be able to type a lot more than just the 3 lines, and people will also be able to read and scroll up and down within that text field. Okay, another text field is needed for the sign here. Oops. Create a button. Signature field. That can be required if you like. Most signatures are. And then lastly, we would like to bring in a button for submit. Object arrange, bring to front. And obviously with all of these, you really do have the option to change and add a stroke or a fill. That's no problem at all. So for the last step, you want to make sure that this is submittable button. See, so got a button. We want it to have an action. Does not have to go to page. The action can be submit form. Okay, so that is important. That one we can write submit form here. That's what's going to submit the form and give you the data that you need once you require. So this is an overview on buttons and forms. We've added text fields. We've added radio buttons, both check buttons and circle radio buttons. We've added combo boxes as well as text fields, and lastly a button to submit the form entirely, scrollable text fields as well. So once you're done with this, save this with your last name _ you can let it default to the name that I gave you, and you'll be done with this exercise.